Thank you all for taking time out of your morning to join us today. I'm so excited to introduce Denise Espana here to present and share a little bit more about what they're doing at Malama Honua. She'll begin with just briefly introducing herself, and then over the course of the next 30 minutes or so, you'll have a chance to learn all about, again, the great work that they're up to. And with that, Denise, I'll pass the mic over to you.
Mahalo lashe, aloha mai kako. My name is Denise Espana, and I'm the school director and founding school director at Malama Honua Public Charter School. We're located in Waimanalo on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. We opened in 2014, so we're entering year 9. So we're still fairly new, and we're a slow process. So we're K-8 school. We opened as a K-2 in 2014, and then every year grew. So only about 2 years ago were we fully grown up to a K-8. And so I wanted to just, I'm super excited to be sharing with you today a little bit about our school. And I'm hoping actually that what we can accomplish today is for you all, brilliant people, to provide some input to us as we're growing and developing and refining. So I'm going to share just briefly a little bit about who we are, our mission and our vision and our promise and what guides us, a big overview of our school, and then be able to kind of hopefully engage with you either through chat or through just unmuting and being able to share. So we'll see what works out best. All right. So first of all, I'm going to thank you ahead of time because as we get moving, I am going to, like I said, pick on your brains. So yes, Lachey, go ahead and let's get started. So Malama Honua is actually the name of a worldwide voyage, and this is Hokulea. And Hokulea and her sister canoe sailed around the world. And the special thing about Hokulea is it's a part of the Hawaiian Renaissance where we brought back in the 70s culture and traditions and language, because through colonization, Hawaiians went from the most literate communities in the world globally at a 97% literacy rate to places where, as we all know, with colonization, it was a loss of language, a loss of culture, highest incarceration rates, our health statistics as a community are very low. And in the 70s, what Hokulea brought to us was a resurgence, a renaissance, bringing back the importance of our culture and language, and really that's what Hokulea represents. And what she is she's a voyaging canoe. And it reminds us the brilliance of our kupuna, our ancestors, because Hokulea and those that sail Hokulea really navigate based on and get from point A to point B based on stars, winds, currents, understandings of the rising and the setting of the sun and the moon and the positioning of the stars, and use no compass. No, the compass is the earth. And so what it's showing is that we can navigate from one place to another without a GPS, without technology, but really just based on being observant and having that knowledge from our kupuna, which was almost lost and needed to be regained. And so with this inspiration, in 2014, the Polynesian Voyaging Society went around the world utilizing just no GPS except for safety, and showing really the importance of being grounded in your culture and knowing who you are and where you come from, the brilliance of our kupuna, the brilliance of our ancestors, and saying that right now in the world, we're struggling with our environment. We're struggling with peace and showing aloha to those around us, and really what Hokulea said was, we're going to go around the world to learn from different cultures around the world, throughout the globe. What are they doing around sustainability? What are they doing to malama, to care for Honua, our earth? And the importance of tying this lei really around the world. And from this mission and vision comes our school that our founders, Robert Witt and Nainoa Thompson, said, we need the voyage that made it around the world to extend beyond just that voyage. And so the school was inspired. And so our mission is to provide an education that cultivates the caring, compassionate, and astute-minded navigator in students and teachers alike, with the appropriate application of indigenous Hawaiian values, inclusive of 21st century skills. So our keiki, our children, say this mission every day, because at first and second grade, we're like, those are some big words. Those are some big concepts. How do we break that down? And so when we opened this school, our teachers, our kumu, came up with this, okay, how do we take this huge concept and make it digestible for students to understand? And so every day now, our students say our mission, which is all haumana, our students, and kumu, our teachers, will become caring, compassionate, and loving navigators that show aloha, to love, malama, to care for, iniike, to seek knowledge, loko mai kai, to share compassionately, na'au pono, to nurture a deep sense of justice, olakino mai kai, which is to live healthy with the skills of the 21st century learner. So we are a Native Hawaiian charter school serving Native Hawaiian children, not only Native Hawaiian children, but really all children. And in order to accomplish this, we believe that school then needs to be have some certain parameters. So our promise that we say is that the school will be a sacred place. It will be a safe place where all are accepted and affirmed, both as learners and people. It'll be a place that honors culture, invites the critical exploration of knowledge, and heartens a culture of compassion. And so again, our students, when we first opened, rewrote our promise too, so that it was digestible for all ages. So we have our adult version and then our keiki version, which is, my school is my wahipana, a sacred place. I can add to a pono, or a good or a just or a right learning environment, by showing my values of aloha, malama, and loko mai kai to all people. I can be respectful and compassionate of all cultures and beliefs, and I can be in control of my learning. So next slide. So our students say our promise, we say our mission, and we also say our values. So you heard it, as I said, our mission, and it's to remember that these are the values that ground us. It's what's shared with the Polynesian Voyaging Society. This is how we set our tone for our school, by stating at the very beginning of every day, we have a piko where we all gather, and we say our mission, our promise. We talk about olalo no eao, or Hawaiian proverbs, and really think about, how are we going to live these values? How are we going to live our promise? How are we going to accomplish our mission through everything that we do? Really helping our students to take kind of a deep breath in and exhale, and say, okay, we are ready to learn, and we know why we're here and why we're learning. So our next slide, please. So what guides us is this idea. Remember, our school is founded on this amazing voyage of Hokulea and Hikianalia that has this very rich history. And so as they were envisioning the voyage and envisioning our school, they also said, well, what's going to drive us more specifically to get to our mission and our vision of our school? And what we are looking at is our founders, along with many other educators, as they envision the vision of the voyage and the school, is this idea of the mind of the navigator. So the navigator is on that va'a, is on Hokulea, and there are many roles. The navigator, though, is the one that is reading the stars, reading the moon, reading the people on their va'a, reading the currents, looking ahead in knowing where that Tahiti is, where that island is, where that future is, and helping the crew and the va'a to get to where they need to be. And so really what we want are we want to support students in learning to become navigators of their lives, navigators of their learning. And yes, we do get on va'a. And so this is our, this idea of the mind of the navigator, which is what my question is that I want you to all think about is, how do we then assess a confident cultural identity? Because that's at the center of the navigator, right? I know who I am, where I come from, my kuleana, or my responsibility to ike kupuna, which is our ancestral knowledge, our responsibility to our land, our responsibility to our people, now and into the future. So how do we honor our past, apply our lessons that we've learned currently, and always to preserve and perpetuate our Hawaiian culture? And so if that's our center, a navigator needs to know where they are before they can navigate forward. So we want our haumana to know who they are and where they come from. And then we also understand that the navigator needs to have environmental awareness. They need to know the actual elements that are around them, but also the people, and being able to read the people and the feelings around them. They need to be able to problem solve ethically. They need to be able to communicate and collaborate. They need to understand that the world is both important for themselves to be focused on what they need to do as the navigator, their crew, and understand that there's a huge global world around them that impacts everything that's happening, and civic responsibility, that they need to take action, that they have kuleana for the boat, as well as what happens around the boat, as well as the ripple effect, right? As you're on the ocean and you're navigating out, that mind of the navigator really drives our curriculum, drives our how we want to assess, and how our vision really for our future of our students. And so everything that we do then revolves around this idea of the navigator. Next slide. So really what we're trying to figure out and what we're trying to work towards is then, how do we assess how well we're doing at supporting our students' confident cultural identity? And once again, that definition is, I know who I am, where I come from, my kuleana, or my responsibility to ike kupuna, our ancestral knowledge, our land, our people, now into the future. So that's kind of the big question, because these are things that aren't easily assessed, right? Through a reading test, or to a writing test, or through SBAC or NWEA, which we do because we understand that those skills are also important to be a navigator in this world and in our community now. But we also need to figure out like that stuff that's really hard to understand, right? Their pride in who they are and where they come from, their understanding of and the importance of cultural practice and perpetuating language and culture, and those different practices that at one point in the 70s we almost lost. How do we regain that and strengthen not only ourselves, but as a navigator, understanding that we need to uplift the lahui, our community. And so I'd like us to kind of think about that. So as you're kind of hearing more about the school and how we're trying to accomplish those things, if you can kind of think with me, like, where are you hearing or seeing ways where we're teaching and assessing the mind of the navigator? The environmental awareness, the confident cultural identity, the civic responsibility, the ethical problem solving. Where are you seeing our values play out, and where are you seeing us begin to provide those opportunities for our students and assess them? So I'm gonna kind of go through that, but if you could keep that in the back of your mind, because I'd like to hear from a different perspective where you see some of these pieces come up. Okay, hikino, let's keep on moving. So, not all knowledge is learned in one school. That we believe that it's important to have a brick and mortar of 4 walls, but it's important to get out of those 4 walls, that we didn't learn only through books. And really, when people are, and we believe that true learning is going to be happening outside those 4 walls, and that they learn from a variety of different people, different teachers, they learn from land, they learn from observation, they learn from different people, they learn from different schools, right? These different schools of of knowledge. And so you can kind of see these different classrooms that we have for our students. And that's where I'm going to kind of take us through that from mountain to the ocean. We provide these different opportunities for our students to engage. Okay, so next slide. So we take them on huaka'i. Huaka'i are like field trips. And so you'll see there's a huaka'i where during COVID, we brought people into the classroom. So you can kind of see a kumu at the front of the classroom, and she actually has a guest speaker talking to the haumana because we couldn't get out as often. We also do try to get out even during COVID, right to our backyard to help at Pahunu, the fish pond. You see the two boys in the water, and they're bringing a rock to the wall to help repair the wall. And then we also have two of our boys at the bottom at one of our classroom sites, and they're just doing some aloha aina malama care for our land, doing some weeding and taking care of the plants in our area. So if you could do the next slide. So our projects then revolve around how do we care for the land so the land can care for us? And hence going out, right? How do we care for our coral reefs so that our coral reefs can care for us? Another group that we partner with is not only is this Mind of the Navigator figurative, but it's also practical, where we want our students to actually know what it means to be on a va'a, know what it means to the importance of paying attention when you're on a sailing vessel. So this is a smaller sailing canoe, still double hull, and our students are learning with Kanehuna Moku Voyaging Academy. So the next slide. So one of the things that we do is every year students learn on the va'a, and then in 6th grade, after their 5th grade defense, which I'll be talking about just in a minute, they actually spend 4 days and 3 nights sailing through Kaneohe Bay. So that's one way of, because they every year they are learning on the vessel, they also get to engage in a larger 6th grade sail after 5th grade defense. So that's one way of one method of learning about the Mind of the Navigator. So next slide. And then, like I said, each grade level leading up to 6th grade defenses, they have to learn, right? The navigator learns on land first. They understand that without being prepared on land, you can't be prepared to sail. So the importance of healthy foods and healthy eating and taking care of our land in order for it to produce and feed us, we need to take care of our land. So for example, we will visit Ho'okua'aina, and you can kind of see in this image at the very top, planting of kalo or taro. And then underneath, our 7th graders learn the importance of, okay, now what do we do with this kalo that we've planted? And you can see that they've actually made, you can see a father and daughter, a mother and son. The board on the bottom is called a papa, and then they actually take a slab of wood and create this board. And then the pohaku is what he's using to pound. I don't know if you're familiar with, I guess poi would be the most, if you guys have been to Hawaii. So how do we take from land and then actually prepare food? So next slide, please. The other type of learning that we have, so it's land, right? Caring for the land. We also have ocean. And so one of the places that we also learn are at right outside. You saw the 2 boys carrying the rock, and you can kind of see the wall outside, is to rebuild this pahonu is actually for turtles, but we have fish ponds. And they're learning about repairing the fish pond wall and also restoring the limu or the seaweed. And so you can see that they're working on braiding limu lei that they'll bring out in an effort to propagate more limu and actually to feed the fish, to bring back the fish to the area. So all of these different projects that we're engaging in, they have an opportunity to learn the block, reading, writing, math blocks in the morning. And then we have an explorations block where they focus on a specific area and then take a look at the different stories that we can learn, historical stories. We talked about Ike Kupuna, our from our ancestors, learning from our ancestors, and then learning from what are present day people doing to support these different areas, taking care of these different areas. And then at the end of the year, then they come up with projects that they're going to do to support propagating limu, or taking care of our coral reefs, or helping our lands to grow more food to feed us and be more sustainable. So if you could just take a moment, I just kind of gave you a snapshot of what we do. Maybe just if you wanted to just put in the chat, like, where did you see or hear ways of teaching and assessing our Mind of the Navigator skills? And then I'll kind of share with you what we do through our defense system. And how we try to assess the learning that we're doing in all of these different projects at pivotal places in 5th and 8th grade. So Lachey, you wanna move on, and people can kind of throw things in the chat as they want to. So you guys can think about that. I know we only have a little bit of time. So mahalo, Kelsey. So we engage with their students, all these different projects, and at different points. So in 5th grade and then in 8th grade again, we ask them to do a defense of their learning. So they create a portfolio, which is a reflection on all these different things that they've learned. And then we also have them present to a panel to share their learning and then engage in a live Q&A. And so these are the two kind of big pieces in both 5th and 8th grade. And so the portfolio consists of having them review this Ovi Lies, Who Am I, where they share their genealogy, and they talk about who they are, who their family is. And then they talk about this timeline piece, talks about, and actually, you know what, Lachey, if you're going to move to the next slide. We have them create this portfolio, and that's where we are moving towards using altitude learning to kind of both collect and then have a place for them to reflect on the learning that they've done over time, and how they, from these experiences, what are the Mind of the Navigator skills that are foundational or that really spoke to them as they were remembering these learning experiences that they have. And so this is just one column of our portfolio rubric of what does it look like if you're meeting our criteria, where we have them explaining the experience that they did in detail, that they're reflecting on their Mind of the Navigator skill, and they're drawing on evidence to say, like, I understand environmental awareness, and this is where I learned it, and this is why I think I have a better understanding or a strong understanding of what it means to be environmentally aware. And that we want to make sure that the portfolio, the end result, is something that looks presentable. So those are the different criteria that we have for the portfolio. The next slide is then we have a whole defense where they have a Q&A, they present their learning, then they have a Q&A, and really a panel of both community members, teachers, and students determine whether they've shown that they have an understanding of the Mind of the Navigator skills that they're trying to defend. So next slide. And that also has a rubric, which is more along the lines of a presentation, that they understand their depth of knowledge, that they have good presentation skills, that what they present is clear and accurate, and that they can answer the questions posed to them. So next slide. And then opportunities really the reason why we have them engage in this defense opportunity is to have them get out there in the community. So this is just an example of two of our girls having the opportunity to work with our former First Lady, Michelle Obama, and being able to share about our school and being share about their learning and the importance of what they want to advocate for. So that was what they were able to do in one example following our defense. So just, I guess maybe just questions that you may have for me or any suggestions from kind of my, kind of just an overview of what we do at Malama Honua.
We have one question. If you don't mind, just go ahead and pop off mute.
Thank you, Lishay. Hi, Denise. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. This is Maria Jose. And so when I was reading through the slide with the rubric for the final presentation, I think it was either the defense or the rubric for the project itself, there was a question about whether the explanations or the presentation met their questions. Is it the questions that they posed for themselves at the beginning or that they were given, or what are those their questions? I was not clear about those.
So I think that you are referencing, let me see if I'm.
It was in one of these final slides. I was just wondering, because I feel like this is an amazing work that you guys do. And I just wanted to better understand it. This is just amazing.
I think what you're, so the question is really, if it was a question and answer, was that the section that you were looking at?
I think so. If we had the slides, I would be able to like super easily pinpoint. Thank you so much, Lishay. I think it was one more. That one in the 10-minute discussion, how connected is the evidence to their definitions? Not questions, sorry, definitions. So are they given a set of definitions at the beginning, or do they work with to get definitions on their own?
Both. So they're given the definition on the first slide that I shared with you, that had all the different like environmental awareness, ethical problem solving, and then they need to internalize it and figure out like, how do I put that in my own words? And then be able to say, these are the evidence that I'm pulling in order to explain to you my understanding of this Mind of the Navigator skill.
Wonderful. Mahalo.
Yeah. Mahalo nui for the question.
Great question. Any others? We do have about 4 minutes together.
Lishay, is it possible to see that definition, or pardon me, not the definition, the rubric slide a little bit longer? That looked fantastic.
Certainly, absolutely. Let me go ahead and go back just a few slides. Give me just a moment.
And Denise, what a wonderful school that you are a part of. This is so inspiring.
Mahalo. You know, we're still learning, and I think that's the beauty of the beauty and the curse, I guess, is that we're still constantly trying to iterate. It's not an easy question to pose, and it's still one that we're trying to refine. So even our rubrics, we're kind of there, but yet we're probably going to be doing a little bit more iteration now that we're fully built out to 8th grade. We started at first, second, and then you kind of end, and then you kind of go backwards again, and then you have another ending, and then you're going to go backwards again. So both the beauty and the curse, I feel like.
Learning is shifting all the time. Yeah, so marvelous. Thank you.
Denise, I'm thinking about the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is that me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Hi, I want to say this is so impressive and beautiful. And the question that arises for me, I get so excited when I see so much hands-on learning being out in the environment. I mean, the idea of actually being on a vessel and not just have that be a metaphor, but a reality as to learning navigation through life. I mean, and then, you know, the garden and all these pieces. How long did it take to incorporate those actual hands-on out in the environment pieces into your curriculum as a school?
So it was a foundational piece from the very beginning. So the way that we organized our day was always, you had block, right? More of, you have to do your literacy and your math blocks. And then the explore was always an important piece, where it was a chunk in the afternoon. And then we dedicate usually one day just to explore. And so when we originally looked at the school, we said, okay, who do we want to partner with? Kanehunamoku was the first, right? With the Va'a and Polynesian Avoidance Society. But then it was, okay, let's take a look around Wamanalo and our area, and who are the organizations that are doing the good work, because we want to learn from what they're already doing.
Yeah.
And so it really was just building that partnership from the beginning. And now we're in year 9, and there are just certain places that we always go back to. And so it's been every year iterating and saying, oh, as we refine our curriculum, then we work with our community partners, and they now are more familiar with what we're trying to do. They become more familiar with the mind of the navigator skills. And so that too is, as that's morphing and strengthening, that also influences, right, these defense points. Because now every year it gets a little bit better. Our community partners step up their game. Our teachers have to step up their game. So, again, it's the beauty of being able to work with such amazing people. And then also that doesn't have a definitive 1 + 1 = 2, and it's always going to be 1 + 1 = 2, right? So again, that is exciting for a teacher. And it's also, as teachers, we're just like, we want to know,
right,
what's the exact plan? What's our sale plan? We have to get there. So it's that balance of rolling with things, and then also being flexible.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, you all, and that is our time. I can't believe how quickly it went by, but Denise, I think I can speak for everyone when I say thank you for sharing about all of the things that you all are doing over at Malama Honua. It truly is incredible. I think what I'm taking away is the one thing that you said, we take care of the land so the land can take care of us, and I think everything that you really shared just went back to how you're so immersed in your community.